Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. My name is Mauku Richard Moses, the General Secretary of Uganda Hotels, Food, Tourism, Supermarkets and Allied Workers Union, the union which is registered to, among other jurisdictions, represent workers in the domestic work and migrant workers. Uganda became one of the largest suppliers of the domestic migrant workers, and it since became a very huge issue in not only in Uganda but in the region and in the receiving countries. So our MRC was a creation of the union, but with the support of IRO. And what do we do as MRC and HTS Union? We provide basically information on safe, orderly, and legal migration to the migrant workers, those that are intending to become, those that are in the process of becoming migrant workers, those that are actually working as migrant workers, and those that return from labor migration. We also provide awareness creation services on awareness creation about the do's and the don'ts, the process that are involved in acquiring that status of a migrant worker. We organize migrant workers into the membership of the union, and we have a number of them. We also provide referrals for those who wish, or for those whose cases we cannot handle. We refer them to the different organizations. We offer legal redress or guidance on and grievance handling for the migrant workers. Many of them come here when they have a lot of issues, or even where they are working, they have issues, but we collaborate with the organizations, the right-minded organizations in those countries, to ensure that we try to address their issues. When they come back here, some of them find when their monies have been squandered by their own families, and they get into very serious issues or troubles with their own families, and they don't know where to go and what to do. Sometimes it is the husband who has misused the money, it is the mother who has misused the money, it is a sister who has misused the money. So how do they do it? So those services on how to handle such grievances we offer to them, and we also provide entrepreneurship skilling to those migrant workers. We incumbent upon ourselves to ensure that we continuously do those things that promote the safety, the well-being of these young women. Why did we develop this book? All of us are aware that there are enormous irregularities and unsafe migration methods and or processes that in most cases attribute to poor terms and conditions of work, the suffering, and all forms of mistreatment that is mooted to the migrant workers. Under the circumstances, HTS Union, as a representative union in the sector, chose to start an MRC that was supported by ILO, and in addition, the union also decided to develop different pieces of literature on domestic migrant workers as a way to control and mitigate the effects and inadequate legislation, and also unsafe labor migration processes. All of us are aware about these things. We have been thinking about problems of migrant workers up to now. Honorable Dr. Jakatonde, we don't have a law. Probably most of you are actually the members of Stewart. When you count the number of MPs who have these organizations that are members of Stewart, over 100 MPs own these organizations that externalize labor. So they have either by choice refused to legislate. And in addition, we also have domestic workers in Uganda. But we don't have a law that governs their relationship with us who are their employers. But we keep talking about them. We have a pending ILO Convention 189 on domestic workers. Up to now, it has not been ratified. It's about now 5 years since it was adopted in ILO.
Then HTS approached us again and said, we do want to help migrant domestic workers or migrant workers in general, because as much as the majority of migrant workers is actually employed in domestic works, it's not all of them, but most of them. As much as most of them are women, but not all of them, and as most of them are young women, but not all of them. So we decided to establish a handbook again, this time for migrant workers, and we have produced it again because we want to make information accessible. It's not that the information is not there, but the question is, do migrant workers have access to that information? So we have a small booklet that is easy to carry around, and it is printed in 4 local languages: Ateso, Acholi, Onyankole, and Luganda, apart from our principal English version. Let me say 2 other words here. Number 1, it is good that migrant workers are represented in HTS, and I'm very happy that you have this abbreviation, this shortcut of HTS, because the Uganda Hotel, Food, Tourism, Supermarkets and Allied Workers Union is probably the longest name I've ever heard of any trade union, but it's manageable, so HTS is our partner. It's good that we have this in Uganda for those who want to migrate. But let me remind you that it's not so easy in the recipient countries. In most of the Gulf countries, trade unions are either non-existent or very limited in their mandate. I have worked for 9 years in the country of Lebanon, and in Lebanon, for instance, migrant workers are not allowed to be members of a union at all. So the more important it is, the moment people go abroad, that they have the information that they need, that they know where to go, where to voice their grievances, and where to get assistance. When we first presented the book a couple of weeks, even months ago, it was the very day when the BBC broadcast a documentary about Ugandan women in Dubai. I'm sure that many of you have seen this disturbing documentation and seen what can actually happen to migrant workers. It's not the rule, but we want to avoid the exception to the rule. Let's try with this launch of the Migrant Workers Handbook to make sure that these rules are accepted and that the rights are taken into account.
I'm honestly pleased to be part of this engagement when we are launching a very important aspect, the handbook. But if I diverge into the details, thank you so much for this considering to sponsor this very important aspect. And I would like to mention that how I wish it can also be done into a number of languages so that our people can know what it entails in this on board. But I think what's important is that this regulation is trying to see that at least to look at management of the regionalization in Uganda, how we should establish the technical committee, the regulate agencies. By last year, we had over 276 agencies. And by now I think they're almost doubling. So regulation of these agencies is very important, and I think this handbook is one of the issues. Then when we look at bilateral agreements, what is it that we require to incorporate? That's actually addressed here. And we have gone ahead to elaborate on ILO Convention 189 and Recommendation 201, which is the cornerstone for having issues like decent work, equal rights for all these people, and ensure that at least they also have dignity in their places of work. These are very important. So we shall work hand in hand and ensure that all these issues are cascaded, and shall urge government, specifically the issues of gender, to incorporate these aspects, the bilaterals, such that at least they operationalize fully, and to ensure that at least we move in tandem.
My name is Hilda Nakagga. I head the Industrial Relations Unit at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry's mandate is very clear. This is to promote orderly labour migration, safeguard migrant workers, and ensure fair and decent conditions of work. So we know that this handbook is directly going to complement the ongoing government efforts, such as strengthening the labour externalization framework, finalizing regulations and the Implement Act that will be very important for the migrant workers, as well as enhancing labour inspections and deepening collaboration with unions, as well as development partners on rights-based labour migration. We encourage all other stakeholders to maintain such constructive engagements on matters related to the terms and conditions of employment. I further appreciate the union for their consistent collaboration with government and other tripartite institutions like we have seen. We have the FUE here present in advancing decent work agenda of this country. On behalf of the ministry, once again, I congratulate you on this significant achievement and inform you that the ministry remains committed to sustained cooperation in promoting safe labour migration and decent work for all. I was supposed to wish you a successful event, but now that it's completed, I want to thank you for God and my country.